Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to be going over the build that I have with Dante's new augment. Now, of course, the augment is not out, so I'm not going to be able to show you the gameplay of how it works with the augment. That will be coming later. I will give you the gameplay and everything like that when it actually drops, but what I can do is show you how this build performs even without the augment, and from there, you could probably imagine that even with the augment, it's going to be even more insane. Now, one thing I do want to note before jumping into this is these Archon shards you can absolutely change. I'm not going to sit here and say that these are absolutely necessary. So before anyone jumps to the comments and says, "Why are you running Energy Max?" You don't need to run it if you don't want to. These are entirely personal preference. The only shards that I will say you probably should run no matter what is the two casting speed shards. At least one casting speed. But if you want to run two, you can, and there's no problem with that. The other thing that I would also recommend running is at least one Equilibrium shard, as we are not running Equilibrium on the build because we don't need it, but for the sake of keeping the energy consistent, just in case, you probably want to have some way of converting the health orbs into energy and that
If
kind of thing.
lost upon the
So
plains outside
I do
cities,
highly
you may
recommend running
derive
at least
sustenance
one
from
purple,
mineral dense termite
but
droppings,
you know,
which the
whatever
Aussies
you
call
decide to do here is
ethopia.
entirely up to you. Whatever
When it
fits your
comes to
playstyle
remember from a
best,
consonant
I'd
again,
rather you go with
it's
that
still going to
than,
be death.
you know, try to copy what I have here. So, yeah. So let's get into the actual build. The one thing that I want to talk about is the augment. If you do not know what it does, it is for the Noctua. It says when you alternate fire the Noctua, it is going to create paragrams and it is going to give allies energy regen. Now, I am making the assumption that you, as the Warframe itself, is going to benefit from the energy regen from that augment. So, that being said, we are running these mods here. This empty slot is, of course, going to be the augment. Feel free to pause at any point if you need to read what these mods do or what these arcanes do or anything like that. You will notice that my strength is only 155, and I'm not running Blind Rage, and I'm not running Augur Secrets, and I'm not running Umbral Intensify, and I'm only running Mold Augmented, Growing Power, Precision Intensify, and Transient Fortitude in terms of strength gain. A lot of people are going to be upset that the strength is not 300 plus through the roof. My reasoning is because you don't need that. I'd rather get into a lobby with a Dante that can consistently output Overguard at a consistent rate and not have like any leeway to lose energy than be with a Dante that's going to give me 70k Overguard and then I better hope that I survive long enough so he can get his energy back up to be able to cast it again. This is a happy medium. And the reason why I do not spec so heavy into strength on any Overguard build is because of the simple philosophy of if you are in an endgame mission and you have one Overguard and you get hit, what happens? You, you go immune and you tank through it, right? Okay. What happens if you go into a mission and you have 10,000 Overguard? You get hit, you tank it, and the immunity happens just like with one Overguard and you go through it. So it doesn't matter whether you have 10,000 Overguard or one Overguard. If you go into the endgame missions that matter, it's getting deleted either way, just the same. So I'd rather have consistent Overguard at a somewhat lower amount than a crazy high Overguard just to see the funny number pop up and then realize, oh no, I don't have any way of getting energy. I should fix that. So for this build, we are going to be really leaning into energy regen, energy efficiency for that reason. Again, not really heavily energy efficiency, but just the two mods here. Also, I would be running stretch, so there's no reason to not run Archon stretch here, as this is, you know, going to be useful. I'll show you the Noctua build in a second, but we're modding it for electricity, so the electricity from the Noctua is going to proc Archon stretch. Yeah. And so, we're not running Prime Flow because with the energy regen that we're getting from Energy Nexus and the ability efficiency from Streamline, we are kind of assuming that the base energy pool that we have is going to be enough. If it proves to not be the case for you, then you can absolutely put, two Talforge Blues on them, anything like that, to be able to get the energy up. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the main build. Let's hop over to the Noctua now. Now the Noctua, I'll just hover over the mods so you can read what they do first. Feel free to, pause at any point if you need to read what anything does. So the main thing about the Noctua that we're going to be running is we're going to be running Viral Electricity. This allows it to output some amount of damage to enemies, somewhat consistently. Electricity is going to be proccing Archon Stretch because this tome is technically an ability, so Electricity from this will proc that mod. We're running Magnetic Might because extra magnetic damage and extra critical damage. We are running Galvanized Fusion just because multi-shot's kind of nice. One thing you can do before I jump into the tome mods, is if you want to replace Diffusion with like Anemic Agility, you can. Because the rate of the Noctua alt fire seems to be based on fire rate and like how many how many shots you're hitting. So if you want to do that, you absolutely can. It's up to you. If you want to adjust like, how fast it's actually, you know, proccing the alt fire, then I definitely either recommend running Anemic Agility or any other fire rate mod like Lethal Torrent, for example. You could actually probably just run that over Galvanized Diffusion if you want. For this build, I actually will do this just because this thing is not it's not fully designed to kill. This thing is meant to be like a stat stick for you as Dante because this is, it's baked into his kit, so you don't need to like, if you're running this in EDA or ETA, you don't need to think about, oh, am I gonna get my stat stick weapon? No, you don't need to worry about that because it's built into him. So you can run Lethal Torrent over Galvanized Diffusion if you want. If you want it to kill more, then you could probably just run Galvanized Diffusion and be done. But yeah, and of course you can also run, if you don't care about the magnetic status and you want the critical damage to just do more damage, then you can absolutely run Prime Target Cracker over it if you want. Again, the build is very much so up for what you specifically want because there's a lot of different ways to accomplish the same thing. Now for the tome mods, this is where a lot of the subjectivity and everything like that comes in. For the actual tome mods, we're running 𝐁𝐿, which is killing enemies reduces the armor and shields of other enemies within affinity range by 5%. This is just a nice utility mod. You don't have to run this. I just like it because it's just nice utility to have. On top of that, we are running Zada Invocation. You are already going to be alternate firing with the Noctua, so you might as well run at least this mod. That makes it so that you get 1 energy regen per second for 20 seconds for each enemy hit, and it stacks up to 10 times. So up to 10 energy per second with this. Again, this is just, you should be running this mod purely because of the fact that it's going to stack with the augment. So why not? And then Netra Invocation, alternate fire is increasing the ability efficiency by 4% for 20 seconds for each enemy hit, and it stacks up to 15 times. So that is 60% ability efficiency. If you choose to not run Streamline, you can do that. Ability efficiency only caps at, I think, 175
Well put together,
is the
operative. Now
number.
get out there and
170, sorry,
make the
170%.
Lotus proud.
So, to be fair, there is a world where you can replace Streamline with Augur Secrets if you want, or if you want to replace it with like, Augur Message or anything like that, or any other, mod that you would want to run there, you can. Just for this, I'm gonna be running Streamline just because it helps you whenever you're not casting the Noctua and everything like that. Like if you need to hit a panic button, Streamline still gives you a baseline to work off of. So you can do that if you want. If you're noticing that you have way too much energy, and like if you're in a mission and you are consistently at max energy all the time, then, you know, yeah, at that point you could probably replace Streamline with something else, you could probably replace it with, like, natural talent, and then, on the Archon shards, you can take out the casting speed ones and put whatever you want. It's very malleable. Again, this augment makes everything very, very malleable and very good. This is very much so going against the meta of Dante, because from what I've seen, everyone's meta for Dante is just, hey, spam strength so that you can get 90k overguard, and it's like, well, that's nice until you go into a mission where all of that overguard is getting, killed in 3 hits. Cool. And now you're out of energy. Cool. So this build will make it so that doesn't happen, assuming your weapons are able to kill enemies and your teammates are actually able to kill enemies. Um, but yeah, so enough yapping. I'm gonna go to a smaller Steel Path gameplay demo just because, again, I don't have the augment on. You'll see that later when it actually releases. So this is just kind of like a preview demo of what it would look like, and then you can kind of assume, okay, if the augment was here, you'd be getting even more energy regen, and there'd be even more paragrams. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the gameplay.